Now, you folks might rightly say, what the heck? Okay, what is that? Well, he, he was the fastest frog in the pond until I went out there to my uncle's farm. And, well, I used to be the fastest gun in town. And I won't remove the sign. He was protesting out there with the Amish, and he didn't think the Amish guy had a gun. But I'll tell you something about being fast. We're going to cover this failure. That failure even autographed the piston. Now you see that clear cut problem right there? That was a valve. Now that wasn't just these heads. These heads are for a customer. These heads are pristine. These heads have less than 100,000 miles on them, and I'm still going to go over them. I'm still going to put new valves in them. All of these valves are the right color. This is why you need valve seats, okay? When you see them that they're black and they're sticky, that's oil. And sometimes that's just changing oil frequently. It'll do that to one cylinder or another, because that's how I know it needs valve seals, because I got 3 sticky over here. And you see that residual there? And part of that is fuel, okay? Now let's get into this, okay? I'm not going to tell you about valves and stuff like that. I do use Manley for valves. I use Harlan Sharps, okay, for rockers and valve springs, okay? If not Manley. And always get new keepers with your springs, okay? Like I said, these heads, you could bolt those right on, okay? A lot of that, the fuel was going out on the fuel injection. People, they use garbage gas in the trucks, number one, okay? But I have work to do, stuff to remove, like them bolts. By the way, those are in with Loctite. You have to heat them up to get them out. And that's why it's always a wise idea just to grind them out a little bit, hit them with your welder, and then turn them out with a nut, uh, which is better for cleaning heads. Well, I got a girlfriend. She says, boy, I do keep my stove really clean for a guy. But she's like, oh my gosh, I got a whole case of oven. You must clean your oven a lot. Yeah, and I clean a whole lot more. She couldn't believe I clean engines and stuff with oven cleaner, but I don't use that junk. That's basically just kerosene is all it is, and you really got to scrub while that stuff, the oven cleaner eats the grease pretty good. That was one. I'm going to go over these after they're cleaned up. I also polish them and port them out. I got a lot of tricks that I do to these heads to make them flow. But we're going to cover why the failure is. Because this goes to the new engines, not just this, okay? This is an older VORTEC, okay? This is not the newer ones, okay? You take your head off, okay? You've seen that in the video. There's hardly any clearance. And if you look at the block deck of where the piston comes up to the deck of the block, there's less than 2 thousandths, okay? So these guys, I'm watching these videos. I turboed a junkyard VORTEC or LS. They call them LS. Let's get the thing right here, okay? You know the thing, man. There's less than 2 thousandths. People do stupid stuff. They also tune their engine. I took my LS truck to a tuner. It's now a monster, and he got rid of that rev limiter. You just screwed yourself. Remember what I was talking about, the frog? The spring? Those head springs, okay, I believe they're rated at 135 foot-pounds. Now, I could be wrong, okay, but I always have my head springs checked. Especially if it's vintage and it's going to cost me a fortune for an older truck or something that I'm just putting back together for somebody to drive. I'm trying to fiddle with my camera here. It's not sitting right, okay? If you want to do something with a rebuild on a truck, okay, and say it's going to cost you $400 for maybe new valves and springs, always have the shop that you take it to. They have a tester, and they can test the springs. That's why I said I don't have an engine shop here. I do mainly body. I like body work, okay, especially in bed at night. That depends on who she is, what her name is. Now, I got my spectacles on because I got all full of that gunk, so I changed spectacles for the video. Listen, I'm going to show you something right here. Okay? Oh, it's got gunk all over it. Well, anyway. There it is. Okay. Takes a lot to shake that off. This magnet will fall right off of here. Okay. One of the things is these are a powder cast rod. Okay. You see that rod was sheared right off. Okay. And if you look, there's no slop. The wrist pin's not walking around. They all do that. They all go back and forth a little bit. But the piston's not walking around. Okay? There's no piston slap. The bores on the engine were perfect. Okay? What am I trying to tell you? Okay, let's round this out. Let me round the problem out. First of all, when you tamper with the engine management system over stock on a stock engine, on these, it's a recipe for disaster. Kid came here, he had an LS truck, and I believe he had it painted, maybe paid somebody. I know he didn't do it. He was trying to tell me he did it, but it was too professional for the guy his age, unless he works at a shop. I know he didn't do that by himself because I do that sort of work. And you could tell, like I said, it was a professional job, and he was telling me he had the heads decked and the block decked. Look, no way in hell can you deck one of these VORTEC engines, let alone the heads. You can't deck either. There's no meat. Guys like me, I buy different heads. I buy new heads and seldom on these engines, these VORTECs, seldom ever do they overheat unless you're a real slob, and then you don't drive a performance truck, because guys that are in speed and performance, we don't overheat our engines, okay? We don't let things get that far that it twists the head that it's got to be cut again. I have motors, my own motors, that I put together 20, 30 years ago when I was a kid, 40 years ago. Okay, I've been doing this a long time, and none of them overheat. Like my Camaro, if I would take my Camaro out of the Roadrunner, the first thing in my brain is to change out that thermostat. Okay? The Roadrunner, I can run that without a thermostat. With the 2.4s, it starts right up. It's a big block. It runs hot to begin with in the summer. So I believe actually there's a note in there, there's no thermostat. The Camaro is a 396 big block, and for some reason my dad was insisting that I keep a thermostat in that car. He has sort of a claim to the car. I don't know why. You know what I mean? He's not going to be around forever, and I don't want to drive it. It's in his house. When that house is my house, I'm probably not going to live here forever. And then I'll go down in the basement and I'll give you a tour of our toy bin. And I really don't like doing that because of YouTube. But let's get back to the engine, okay? The springs will float. That's why you're not going to make any more power out of a stock LS. You're going to get more speed out of the taking the rev limiter away. But you're not going to put a cam, a lift cam, and those things in these VORTEC engines. They're going to blow apart. Because that was my stupidity. This. I put new springs in, heavier springs. I put a cam in it, and it lasted for a while. And then came to the day when this trailer that this stuff is on, I got hit out here on the coal road. And I tried to pull the crippled trailer home until the wheel flew off of it. I got it up to about 40 miles an hour. I was pissed. Dune buggy came right out of the railroad, the crossing, and it hit it right in the wheel, right square in the center of my trailer. Bounced off, a young girl flew out of it, and I'm trying to hey you, and this guy's getting aggressive with me. Obviously, they were doing a little too much of this. She's all effed up. I mean, the girl was pretty screwed up. They threw her in that dune buggy. It was missing its left front wheel, and that thing took off like a scalded cat. I mean, I guess they're ATVs, but this thing looked like an actual dune buggy. So I went the next day. It was running, but it wasn't even making any noise. I just went over to Lowe's. I pulled out at the light, and I took a right-hand turn, and I heard thump. Something happened when I was using more power. Like I said, I'm trying to drag a crippled trailer. I understood
the way the wheel flew and everything. The hub is garbage, the brakes are garbage. So I'm just right around the corner from my home. I'm just going to try to get there. Well, wrong move, Swifty. And I attribute that to putting the cam in there as well. Okay. So you get valve spring, you get valve float at high RPMs. Okay. That's why every NASCAR guy, every guy like me that I learned at an early age, okay, from like Durfee here, I can't say Freddy Frog. Okay, it's probably a misnomer. The YouTube police will get me for copyright, so that's Durfee. Okay. Anybody in NASCAR, anybody in speed and performance automatically changes the valve springs, and especially if you're running a different type of cam. And it's a good idea to contact, like I use Howard's cams. I like Howard's cams. I like Harlan Sharp's cams. But Harlan Sharp does not make every flavor cam that I want. Neither does Howard's, but Howard's makes a good conservative blend of cams. And I will recommend them over Crane, and all that other stuff is being made overseas. The stuff that Howard's turns out in Harlan Sharps, it's all American billet steel. And Howard's told me, like when I did Holly Ann here, okay, she really runs sweet, okay. The only bad part I got was those Felpro gaskets and that goddamn Holly carburetor, because I'll never buy another Holly carburetor. And I didn't like their fuel pump either. Their fuel pump didn't last. I bought the Summit brand, and if it hadn't been for the problem with the fuel tank piping the fuel the way I wanted it to, now that the fuel's piped the way I am, I have about 3 pounds of fuel pressure, and I have not taken her up the mountain yet. I just don't have the time. I'm cutting firewood. I'm working on my my log splitter there. We're going to do a video on that, on log splitters, because it's not, there really isn't a comprehensive video on those log splitters like I'm trying to tell you why these VORTEC engines fail. The reason why those engines are blowing up, and I don't believe engines blew up at 4 miles, I believe 40,000. I believe somebody really seriously laid on it, maybe out on the freeway. Normally, the reported failures that I hear from people that are being honest with me, it's going up a hill. They either hear something funky, and it either happens the next day or a week or 2 later. But they hear that piston and that valve contact, because the engine will sort of chug. That's one of the symptoms how you know you're going to lose your engine, is after you hear that, you know, you raced the shit out of it, you went up that mountain, especially if the engines are hot and the oil's thinner. Okay, I don't know if that really legitimately has anything to do with it, but I know this engine was like new. And all I did was, the mistake I made was using those stock pistons and rods. If you're going to build a VORTEC, a stock engine, a blank, get another crank, get matching pistons, get rods, and these usually come assembled. So you don't even have to worry about pressing the pistons on the rods with the new ones. And machining's so good you don't have to worry about balancing. Get the crank, the bearings, the rods, and the pistons, and the rings. It all comes in a set. It's about, the cheapest decent one is about 600 bucks. There are cheaper ones. I haven't tried them, but that's what I went with this time around in my other truck. I went with the cheaper, the more modest price set, and I don't see a problem with it. I've had it up to 90 mile an hour. That's as fast as this old bird wants to go out on these roads. And that's only if it's safe to do so. I use common sense. If I crank my truck up, it's for a reason. I'm in a hurry, or my fire's choking me. I'm not feeling that swift. I've been getting dizzy spells. Like I said, I haven't been feeling good. Ever since that COVID, I've been getting progressively worse, and I've been chopping firewood. I've been running myself. In between these rainstorms, I'm going ragged. Make a note of it. Get a different crank, get shorter pistons, and get new heads. Okay? Get the piston kit, okay, with the crank, the bearings, the rings, the rods, all together. Like I said, it comes assembled. The kits are masterful. The shop, what are they going to charge you? To maybe dip your block and check everything that they're putting together? What are they going to charge you? Maximum $700 maybe. Some of the shops are overpriced. Like I said, it's not the same everywhere you live. These guys are so overburdened with municipal work and race cars. Trying to get an average thing, a lot of guys might want to go with yourself, but Uh, there's nothing like having an expert assemble the bottom end of your engine. I can do heads. I usually, what I'm going to do with these, they're just going to go get cut. The valves, not the head, not the deck. Those are a stock head, and I don't recommend them. If you're going to tell somebody your truck, your Silverado is a performance truck, I know right away when I look under the hood like this one, you're going to see there's a different style head, and you're going to see there's headers, and you're going to see things have been modified to accommodate that type of hard use. Okay, I don't race on the streets. I don't race anybody. I just like vehicles with power, and that's just the way I've been. Now the old Vortecs, they're a different story. Okay, so hopefully I didn't bore you and I told you exactly, truthfully, why these engines go. Okay, it's cheap rods. Number one is the fouling, and the engineering, the geometry inside that engine, as much power as it makes, is wrong. And another thing that can send something ballistic is when your fuel injectors are older and they're worn, and one injector's making that cylinder more powerful. Okay, 9 chances out of 10 you're going to detonate that cylinder. But the older Vortex, the cylinders that fail are 1 in 5. You're going to find contact on every one of them that I've had here, and ones that I've blown up. That's number 1 piston. It's either number 1 or number 5. Now, you're going to find on the L86, L87, I don't care what these newer ones are. The designation L74, they got all kinds of kooky names for them. Look, all they are is an AFM managed truck. It's not the AFM. It's the cheap rods. Okay? These are a powder cast. These are a cast rod. You see, they have a casting. They're not a true forged rod. You can see by that line. It's, like I said, and that was at low speed. Okay? And also, like I said, the geometry is all wrong. Okay? There's not enough clearance between the valve and the piston at high RPM. You get distorted fuel management at those speeds too if you don't have, even if it is tuned, did you put tunable injectors in it? Like the Delcos, I would go with the Delco. Do not go with a Delphi injector. Don't go with the, I don't know if they are Nikkei or, I think it's Nikei, Nikei. There's a couple off brands of injectors. Don't touch them. And especially if you're going to have somebody tune your truck. You don't have to put your truck on a dyno just to have it bumped up a little bit. But I'm going to tell you, once you bump up that fuel trim, maybe change the mass air, change your air, that you're going to get a little more air with your fuel trim. They all do that right through the laptop, and it's in there. Then you remove your rev limiter. Don't do it, because like I said, bad fuel injectors will also blow it up. I'm going to check my note sheet, see if I missed anything, and I'll end the video. Okay? All right? No, I think I've sufficiently explained that. Like I said, it's a malfeasance. It's a combination of using cheap garbage inside your engine, like a cast rod over, from China. Little Chinaman probably made that rod for $5, and GM gets 50 to 100,000 for a truck. It's a no fucking brainer what they're doing to you. Not to mention all that plastic. Hey, what has more plastic? Nancy Pelosi's face and boobs, or a brand new Silverado, or an F-150 or F-250? Well, that's pretty much a toss-up. I couldn't tell you. Now, we'll just end the video, and we're going to say this is what it is. There's no clearance to cut that block. They're a throwaway block, unless you're going to get shorter piston, shorter rods and pistons. Get a kit. The heads, once those heads are tweaked or whatever, if the head's tweaked, it's garbage. They're a throwaway head, just like everything else. Okay? So that's why I said, if you don't come here, and there's guys, one guy, like I said, he tried to tell me he had the block cut, the heads cut, and I'm thinking, typical kid, thinking I'm an idiot. But you older guys know that. But what the mystery is that we're arguing over here, cheap machining, cheap parts, okay, save a buck. The contractor paves the road an inch thinner than what the spec sheet from the engineer says, pockets all that money for that material. And it's happening here. They do it here on the roads. Well, hell, they don't even fix the roads here. They just glop some shit in the fucking pothole, and 3-4 days later, the trucks pull it right out of the hole, and you should see the holes in the road, especially going uptown here. Holy cow. All right, guys, enough. I think I've covered the VORTEC failure. Not enough clearance between the piston and the valves, not enough meat on the block, not enough meat on the head. Okay, and then garbage parts. And always, always, when you tear your motor down and you're going to do things to it, always replace them valves and the valve springs. Makes one heck of a difference, and especially even if it's a used salvage yard motor. Thank you for my video. Thanks for watching my video. I'm still under the weather, as I said.